This happened when I was 12, but the memories of it are fresh as if it had happened just yesterday. I used to live in a rural town in the countryside of southern Serbia back then. We're talking late 90s here. Technology hadn't really arrived in our town by then, so the architecture and the overall vibe of the place was really serene and something straight out of a fairy tale. I enjoyed my childhood a lot, playing in the fields, learning basic education, not a care in the world whatsoever. I know Balkan parents are known for their toughness, but mine weren't like that at all. They were very lenient and let me live my childhood to my fullest. But as time went on, we eventually had to leave the place, and the catalyst for our departure was something that we had never seen coming. In fact, no one did. As devout Christians, whenever Christmas approached, we'd always prepare for it to the best of our abilities without compromise. One of the most important steps in the preparation is cleaning the house inside out. Every corner, every nook and cranny. So on a chilly Sunday morning, we had begun cleaning the house and we had finished by the evening. My parents considered it a task well done and rewarded themselves by taking the rest of the day off. I decided to go out and play with the village kids since I too had no work for the rest of the day. The bulk of the job had been done, so I thought to reward myself too. I played the whole evening with the kids, a mix of tag and hide and seek, and some general dares that we gave to each other as kids. No one even noticed how the time went by so fast, but it was a time spent well. We played so much that we didn't even notice how late the hour was. Now, our town was very safe and almost everyone knew each other, so there wasn't anything to worry about. That's why my parents thought to let me play, and when I get tired, I'd return home by myself. And I did, but very late. Almost 12 a.m. at night. I came back home and saw that my parents were already asleep in their bedroom. I went into their kitchen to have something to eat. I was starving. I brought my food into the living room to eat, and after I finished, I went back into the kitchen to put down the plates into the basin and wash them. But as I walked into the kitchen and turned on the lights, I saw something that made my skin crawl. Not a ghost or something, no. But the entire left wall of the kitchen was full of cockroaches. There wasn't a spot which wasn't occupied by the bugs. It was that infested. I didn't want to wake up my parents because they had been constantly working since the morning till the evening and were probably extremely tired. I knew I had to wake them up and tell them about this at some point, but I thought about finding a solution myself first. We didn't have a bug repellent spray or something at the time, so I had to use my trusty shoes to smack and squash as many as I could. Now I usually am not afraid of bugs or something because I spent most of my time in the outdoors and messed around with almost every organism that I could see in the nature. But seeing them in this overwhelming amount stressed me a lot. I picked up my shoe and began silently squashing the roaches with it, not making a bang sound with it as to not wake my parents up. This was extremely inconvenient though, as the cockroaches began fleeing all around and some even started to fall on me. Then I knew this technique was futile. I closed the kitchen door and began slamming the shoe onto every roach that I could see, and believe me, I could see endless amounts of them. This is not even an exaggeration when I say that I got at least 90 of them. The rest of them dispersed and disappeared into the facades of the house. Luckily, my parents didn't wake up. Now on the floor before me lay heaps of dead cockroaches. It was something straight out of a movie, a sea of dead bugs. I like to believe that I did an even better job than an exterminator, but that incident wasn't even the worst part. I went to grab a cloth sack to put all the dead roaches into so I could throw it out into the trash. As I went to grab the sack and came back, I saw that the number of dead roaches on the ground was significantly lesser than I remember. I was damn sure that I killed at least 90 because the amount that was on the ground was around 15 to 20 now. It didn't make sense, and I was 100% certain about what I had done. Did the rest just disappear? Did they come back alive and leave? Or did it never even kill that many to begin with? I knew the last part couldn't be true because I remember doing all that just a mere 5 minutes ago. Anyways, that didn't change the fact that I had to still clean up and throw out the trash now. And so I did. I swept all the dead roaches off the floor and onto the sack that I had laid out. I then proceeded to wrap up the sack so I could throw it out next. Now, this is where it gets worse, and yes, the cockroach infestation wasn't even the worst part. Now, I don't know if you share a similar belief in your culture, but in Serbian culture, throwing out the trash late at night is an extremely bad omen, and I bet you can guess where this will lead to. It was way past 1 a.m., almost 2 now, and I was the only person out on the streets as the entirety of the village slept in their homes. In the countryside, when it's cold outside, it shows, so the whole place was ensnared within this thick winter mist. I couldn't see past 20 feet, as everything further than that was just a snowy blur. I had a flashlight in my hand as our side of the town wasn't really much illuminated by any street lamps or something. The trash can was located down the street to my left when I stepped out of the house. Sure, I used to stay out late, but most people living in a village are hardwired to sleep at 10 or 11 max. At least in my town it was that way. I had never wandered around the town this late before. At first I was a bit uncomfortable. My concerns were mainly about the nocturnal wildlife that roamed around when the people were asleep. I was hoping I don't encounter a wild coyote or something of that sort. But soon that concern faded away when I began to kind of enjoy the outdoors at that time. Apart from my flashlight, the moonlight illuminated the canvas, and so everything had this blue sort of hue to it. Without my flashlight though, I could only see the outlines of the houses around me and, well, that was it. All was going jolly and well until I almost reached the trash can. I was about 15 feet away from it and I could clearly see with my flashlight that someone was standing behind it. It was just the outline of a person. I couldn't see their face as it was just a silhouette. Me, being the dumb kid I was, called out to the person, expecting them to be a fellow nighttime enjoyer walking on the streets. I got no response. I thought they didn't hear me as they didn't yell loud enough, nor did I want it to, as everyone was asleep. I went closer to talk to them until I realized no matter how close I go and how brightly my flashlight shines on this person, I just still can't see no facial features, or any features for that reason. It was just this outline, this silhouette of a person with the blackest of pitch black color that you can ever imagine, and no matter how much my light shone on them, it was almost as if like the light was being absorbed by this person. As I was getting closer, I saw a stray dog pass by behind that person. Even though the dog was way behind the trash can and not even that illuminated by the flashlight, I could still see its features clearly. Its dark brown hair, eyes, nose, everything. That's when I realized that person I was approaching wasn't a person, let alone a human at all. It was this dark mass concentrated into the shape of a human, a shadowy ghost or a demon. That's when I let out a real scream, threw the sack away and began running for my life. I had never sprinted so fast in my life. As I was running, I had reached my home halfway. There was still quite a distance left to go, but I had a quick look behind with my flashlight, and yet again, the figure was still there. Only this time it was just a couple of feet away from me. It was also standing still. It didn't appear like it was running at all. That's why I didn't even hear footsteps. That scared me tenfold, and my heart began beating thrice as fast. While running, I thought that entity might have been a figment of my imagination, but after seeing it behind me like that, I knew this was a real fatal threat. I eventually reached my home and barged into it, slammed the door shut and locked it. I closed all the window blinds and went straight to my bed, crawled under the sheets and never once dared to look outside my window. My parents came inside the room as they were woken up by the loud sound of the door slam. I tried explaining to them what had happened so far, but honestly I was just so choked up that I couldn't even say anything. They saw that I was visibly shaken up though, so they told me to sleep with them in their room. The whole night I couldn't sleep thinking about what I had just seen. Suffice to say, my family didn't question me as to not push me over the edge. But as I regained my calm over the next couple of days, my mom asked me what had happened and I told her everything. The expression on her face was that of shock, as if she had discovered something. It was clear she wasn't trying to dismiss me as her facial expression was obvious. She gave me a big hug and a couple weeks later we were celebrating Christmas. That Christmas night when we were about to sleep, I overheard my parents in the bedroom arguing about leaving the house and moving to a new place. Turns out whenever my mom was alone in the house, and when my dad went out for work, and when I went out to play in the neighborhood or the local school, she'd always get the feeling as if she is being watched, and even though she was the only one home, her feelings were confirmed when she saw that black figure standing outside the window one day. And after hearing my story, her concerns were proven as concrete truths. February of that next year would mark the month where we would begin the preparations to move to a new city within Serbia, and I have to say it was the best decision we had ever made. I'm a full-grown man now, living in the US, and even though my life is way different than back then, I just can't help but forget the feeling of the absolute primal fear that the incident all those years ago brought within me. I guess I never will. So guys, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like and subscribe, comment on the video below if you enjoyed it, and yeah, until the next time, safety and peace.